Only drivers to have finished second and not to have won a race so far this season. There's Nelson Piquet Jr. heading out as someone locks up there. By the looks of it, coming straight out of the pits. It's difficult to get temperature into these brakes at the best of times, especially coming straight out of the pits, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. Cold brakes coming out of the pits there. It can catch you out, especially with the battery being full as well. There's no regen of this part of it, so it's easy to lock the fronts because you haven't got as much rear braking as you might think. So you'll see that happen a lot, actually. We've seen it before, the beginning of the race, towards the end of a stint as well. That's when all that kind of comes into play, adjusting your brake balance to maximise every braking zone.
So this is the run through turn 5, then they go through the second sector split there, just before they get on their brakes down into the left-hander of turn 6. This is Scott Speed we're watching in the Andretti car. They then straighten out for the sort of kink at 7, then through 8 and 9, which is sort of one corner. There's a little apex at 8, and then that leads into that turn 9 there. Then they double back around on themselves again through the third sector split as they come across the line just there. And then on the brakes into turns 10 and 11. Then we've got the two Trulli cars coming through as well. Jarno in front of Tonio at the moment, and then there's Daniel Abt, the home racer this weekend. Two Germans in the field. Abt and Nick Heidfeld are the two men who are going to be hoping for home glory. And then they come out over the start-finish straight and down towards turn 1 again. So the track isn't quite as bumpy as people feared it might be. It's a lot smoother out there, but I don't think there's going to be an awful lot of grip by the looks of it.
No, you can see it is a little bit dirty offline, but with it being a lot smoother, it's going to make it easier for the drivers. You know, you haven't got to worry about the car jumping around so much in the braking zones and through the corners. There are some bumps, like we saw yesterday, just walking around turn 3 and in a little bit into turns 8, 9. There's some bumps as well, but apart from that, it's okay for an airport. It's pretty smooth.
So there, a bit of a lock-up there from Sebastian Buemi as he comes down into turn 6. Oh, and goes very wide as well on the exit 2 and sliding there. I think that was Lucas de Grassi who had a big old slide coming out of turn number 6. Might have gone through those plastic markers that are there to stop the guys going 4 wheels off. And this is the intricate section underneath the canopy roof. And then around through the final corner at 16 and 17 and out onto the start-finish straight again. So already the guys are testing the limitations of the grip, and we might see a bit more of that here because there's more margin for error than any of the tracks I think that we've seen so far this year.
Yeah, you can get away with it a little bit more here. As you can see on pretty much every corner, you've got a good few lengths of car length on the runoff. So if you do make any mistakes under braking, you have got that little bit of extra room to run wide and get back on. But yeah, there's other tracks on the calendar that are not so forgiving. So across the line they come, and we should be able to go now with Karun Chandok for an onboard lap as he gets ready now to come around the final corner and across the line. The Mahindra driver hopefully we'll be joining him in a couple of moments' time as he comes out over the start-finish straight. So let's go for an onboard lap with Karun.
Fourth gear on the brakes now, opening a lock-up into turn 1. Second gear. Just using all the width on the way out, aiming for those bollards, but then turning sharply right into turn 2. It tightens up on the exit. Got Jean-Eric Verne in front of me, just in the queue. Turn 3, this corner opens up, massively important for the exit. Back into the car, squirming around as we head towards this curved back straight to turn 5. This will be a big place for overtaking in the race into turn 6. Look how wide it is. But today, at the moment, we're just trying to discover the line and work out our energy strategy. Through 7, 8, 9. Very, very tricky, this corner, I think, especially 200 mode. It's going to be quite quick. There's a bump at the apex at 9, which is going to be a bit of an issue, I'd imagine. On the brakes now, again, a very wide entry into 10. And it opens up again on the exit. This final sector now is going to be so important to get a lap time and not overdrive it. We're going to try second gear on this lap. Let's see what it's like. It's not too bad. Into the final few corners. Got to be really aggressive with the wheel to get it to change direction. Last chicane and across now towards the start finish line. And yeah, it's dusty at the moment, but quite good fun.
Great, thank you for that, Karun. Enjoy the rest of your session, and that was good to hear from Karun Chandok there as he went around that onboard laps. That gave us a good little idea of what it's like out there, and the driver's still
cut the TV.
Trying to learn, and I think we might have left him on there. Sorry, Karun. And he's trying to concentrate out there. But there's Jean-Eric Verne heading down now towards turn 6. Throws it into the left-hander, and then into 7. And then that's quite close to the wall there on the exit. They really run up quite close to that, Mike.
You've really got to pull it back through that section 8 to 9 and really line it up for the braking area into turn 9 there. So yeah, that's quite tricky. And as I said, with the full power, lost a bit of car there from either Jean-Eric's car or someone else's.
Yeah, couldn't quite pick out what that was. It was just a bit of white debris, wasn't it? So, like you say, whether that came off him or he ran over something else, we'll wait and see. But now into the tricky final section. It's sort of the stadium section, really, isn't it? As someone really screeches on the tyres somewhere out there on the circuit. Verne comes through the final corner. Nick Heidfeld is currently the quickest man out there at 24.731. Verne might just jump and beat him as he comes across the line. And no, he doesn't. He improves, but he's still a 10.5 down on Nick Heidfeld's time in the Venturi car. You can see the screens there on the times on the left-hand side as I think Verne goes 4 wheels off.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit past the track limits there, but it's good to see they're exploring the limits, and Jean-Eric looks pretty comfortable out there. He's really throwing the car around, and it's good to see. But yeah, just overstepped it. You'll see here, braking, as just forcing it in and just gets on the power really early, but it's just too early. The car is not holding through there, and it just ends up being wide, and you can see how dusty and dirty it is offline.
Absolutely, and this is him. I think he's just going to run over. Oh, I don't know, actually.
I think that might be the white lines when we walked around yesterday. They're quite thick. Okay. Painted lines. Whether that's come up or something else. We'll find out soon.
On board with Nick Heidfeld, who I think we might have just heard some of his team radio telling him to do a fast lap. Let's see. He's got it turned up to, about 150 now as he comes down towards turn 1. Gets on the brakes. Gets the apex nicely.
Yeah, good line there.
And then into it's turn 3. There is a turn 2 in there technically somewhere, but I mean it's not really relevant as we have a red flag out at the end of this session. So that's going to not at the end, 9 minutes into this session.
Radio check.
And that's Heidfeld telling the team that there's a red flag out there on the track.
Red flag.
And I think it's for okay, so that's what it is. It's the tape across the timing beam. That's what's come up here. You can see that on the right hand side there, that tape is what holds down the timing sensors, and it's a bit unusual here because you can't drill down into the circuit, so they've had to put it across the circuit like that. And it's a similar story with the curbs because they're not allowed to bolt them down to the side, are they?
Yeah, you can see they're using a different curb system here. It's quite good actually. I had a good close look at it, and it's pretty useful. You know, it all kind of interlinks and bolts into itself rather than into the track, so it's quite a cool design.
Jerome D'Ambrosio being wheeled back into the garage for the Dragon team whilst they get out there and just fix that timing line at the end of Sector 2.
Yeah, even though this is quite annoying that the drivers, everyone's got a red flag, it is a good time though for the drivers to debrief with their engineers and give them as much information as they can about how the car is feeling, if they need to make any adjustments or go through some data compared to their teammates and see where they need to improve.
There's Lucas Di Grassi pulling back into the pits, back in his old helmet. He had a new helmet on for the shakedown yesterday, so we'll see what he ends up driving with later on when the racing comes around. But at the moment it looks like he switched back to his old helmet for the time being as they wheel Jaime Alguersuari into the pits as well. There's Nico Prost chatting to his engineers and doesn't look over the moon with I'm no French expert, but I can do body language, and he doesn't seem particularly satisfied with how it's gone out there. Even Alain's coming to have a look. Serious. It must be serious.
Yeah, he may maybe some discomfort with the car setup or just a annoyed about this red flag situation. But yeah, I'm sure they're eager to get back out there as well. You know, it's always annoying, sat there in the pit lane waiting to get back out there. But I'm sure it'll be resumed fairly soon.
Andretti are a team that really need to, or want to, get back on it this weekend. They had the pace in Monaco, but just through various reasons tended to struggle in the qualifying session. There's Andy Miller on the radio to Scott Speed. But yes, Jean-Eric Verne messed up his qualifying lap at Rascasse, and Scott Speed struggled with the brakes in the qualifying session too, so they ended up a long way down the field. And then, as a result, got involved in the first corner smash, and so had a very, very difficult weekend in Monaco. But prior to that, they had a podium in Long Beach, a podium in Miami, so they'll be looking to get back towards the front of the order as Verne lifts off his helmet for the time being to have a look at some information on a little tablet.
Yeah, I'm sure that's got an overlay of his laps he's just done compared to either himself or Scott Speed, which is always good, useful, quick information that a driver can just instantly see, you know, if he's braking any later, any earlier, carrying less speed, and just really get a feel for where he's at. And, you know, you can always learn something, even if you're quicker than your teammate. You can always learn from one corner, or there's something you can always pick up on how to improve on your own performance.
So the covers coming off the rear of Jean-Eric Verne's car, potentially to make some setup changes. Nick Heidfeld, the quickest man out there so far, but everyone pretty much has completed 5 laps. Heidfeld's done a 24.731. Jean-Eric Verne is right behind him, and even in these early stages, we've got the top 13 drivers covered by a second. There's a look in the back of the car, the big black battery box underneath the silver box on top of it, which is the inverter. And that then sends the power down to the electric motor, which is underneath those red springs. That silver box is the electric motor, and then behind that, pretty much underneath where the chap's hands are now, is the gearbox, which obviously then goes to the drive shaft and turns the wheels. So that's how the back of the Formula E car works. And Sebastian Buemi is another man who's catching up on the tablet action as he gets ready to head back out there onto the circuit. How many laps would it take you on a track like this to really feel like you know what you're doing?
Well, it depends really. Sometimes you can learn a track really quickly, and sometimes it can take a little bit longer. And it all depends as well on how comfortable the car is, if you're able to just start pushing straight away, or if it's a little bit more on edge and you can't quite drive it how you want to. So it can depend, but drivers pick up the actual layout and where they need to go, obviously, on the first lap. But, you know, to explore the limits and really push the car, to feel like you've got the car underneath you and you can manipulate it the way you want, that's when you really kind of explore the limits of the track and obviously yourself.
A very interesting battle at e.dams, I think, this weekend with Nico Prost and Sebastian Buemi. Buemi having 2 victories so far this season, won the last race in Monaco from lights to flag, but he's only 6 points ahead of his teammate Nico Prost, and at some point you feel that e.dams are going to have to start to favour one driver or the other, or at least when it comes to race scenarios, if one driver's ahead and one driver's behind, then maybe that'll come into play. Loic Duval, who had some good pace in Monaco, hasn't managed to convert his performances into a really good result so far. 7th on his debut in Miami after qualifying right down the back of the grid, but he drove a very strong race. But a big change for him, coming from LMP1 cars to these single-seaters. He hasn't driven single-seaters for a little bit of time, Loic Duval. There with the Dragon team, though, who are a very experienced and strong outfit. Yet to have a podium so far this season, Dragon. They had a front row lockout, I think, in Malaysia. Oriol Servia starting on pole position. Start taking the engine cover off a setup change that they're going to make to the Loic Duval's car. As we still are under red flag conditions here in Berlin ahead of during the first free practice session. Jaime Alguersuari, a man who also is maybe under a little bit of pressure. A best result so far this season of 4th in Buenos Aires, and really he had a 4th and 5th in South America, but apart from that, it hasn't been a particularly strong season for Jaime, and he was really seen as one of the front runners when the season started back in Beijing.
Yeah, also pre-season testing at Donington, you know, Sam and Jaime were very fast, and I think that, you know, they've started off the year very quick. It's just I think as the competition levels now has been raised, and you know, you've got certain people fighting out for the championship, it, you know, looks like it has been a little bit harder for everyone, and those guys as well. But yeah, Sam seems to be pulling it up and still getting some results. So yeah, just a case of pulling the weekend together, I suppose.
Session will restart in 8 seconds time. And no, they've just pushed that back a minute, so the session will restart in 1 minute's time now at 8:32 local time here in Berlin. There is Sam Bird, the man who won so comprehensively in Putrajaya, was second in the championship, leaving the second race of the season in Malaysia, but since then hasn't been back on the podium. The closest he came was last time out in Monaco, where he finished fourth, trailing Nelson Piquet Jr. across the line. And there's Karun, who took us round for a lap earlier on, currently down in 19th position in the standings. But he only completed 4 laps, everyone else completed 5, and he was going quicker in that first sector compared to everyone else. And there's Nelson Piquet Jr., second place man in the championship. Well, he was 1 point behind Lucas de Grassi, but he finished third to de Grassi's second in Monaco, and as a result he's now 4 points behind the championship leader. But with 4 races still left to go, 4 points isn't that much really, and it's, I mean, any of those top 3, even maybe, I mean, you look at Sam Bird in 5th place, he's got 64 points to de Grassi's 93, so that's quite a big gap, but even then it's not insurmountable, as everyone is desperate to get back on the circuit as we go green again here in Berlin, because track time in Formula E is at a premium, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's yeah, it's crucial. You've got to get things dialed in as much as you can. You know, you've got 2 practice sessions, you're qualifying, and then you're straight into the race. So as much track time, as much as you can learn out there is going to be crucial for how the weekend can pan out. But it's always cool as well. The drivers love always going to a new circuit, so it's the more laps you can do on a new place is always fun. So yeah, they're raring to get out there and push the limit.
Through turn 5, down towards turn 6. Turn 6 and turn 10 tend to look a little bit similar, so I need to keep an eye out for that one. Turn 10 I think is a little bit tighter than 6, as we look at Charles Pic going through the right-hander. Best result of the season so far was a 4th place in the opening round in Beijing, but that's when he was driving for the Andretti team. Since he moved to Team China, Monaco was his best result, last time out in 8th position for the Frenchman. There is Sam Bird, followed by Charles Pic, as they get on the brakes now into the final section of the circuit, into turn 12, which is a very, very tight. It's almost a hairpin pretty much. But now here comes Sebastian Buemi out onto the start-finish straight. It's Buemi, Piquet, Prost and Abt, those first 4 cars coming down into the turn 1 braking zone. Through the left-hander, everyone pretty neat and tidy that time through. Then into 3. Back end really swings around, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. They're really trying to turn it around quickly there, and it's easy to turn the rear around and not follow the front. So, but you know, Seb's pushing. He doesn't want Nelson close to him to learn all his lines. But you know, Nelson's a wise old fox. He's going to learn as much as he can from the back of Sebastian's car there, and also Prost behind Nelson. He's going to be learning off of him and seeing where they have their strengths and weaknesses.
Yep, up into turns 8 and 9.
They slide all the way through there. It's the full drift. It's quite cool to see.
25 minutes to go here in the free practice session, almost halfway through. We had one brief little red flag for debris on the circuit, but now we are back in green flag conditions. These two have pulled away very quickly from Nico Prost, so I wonder if they're perhaps running a slightly higher power setting as they now come under the apron, under the canopy I should say. And that shadow moves across during the day, because later on, when the race comes, it'll be in full shadow as Piquet is really wrestling the car through that final corner. It looks to me as though he has been slightly quicker than Buemi on this lap. Across the line they come, and they didn't go particularly quickly, but Piquet was the quicker by 0.2 of a second. And we've got Daniel Abt there, fourth in this queue.
Yeah, big lockup from Daniel there going into turn 1. Seems quite easily done. They're braking quite late, 100-meter board into turn 1. And with the bumps on the way in, it's easy to snatch the front. But, you know, that's what they're doing. The first practice session is really learn the limits of where they can brake, picking their position on the entry to the corners. So it's going to be, you'll see a lot more of this.
Jean-Eric Vergne has just gone quickest of anyone in the middle sector at 22.0. Nick Heidfeld still has the quickest time. You can see the timings on the left-hand side of the screen there, with 24 minutes to go in this session as Abt swings it around the right-hander. And now on the brakes into turn 10. It's turned in, and then 11 is really, I think, going to be a... Yeah, it's in, you're pretty much still exiting turn 10 by the time you have to kink left into 11. And now into this twisty section. Daniel Abt, who had pole position in Long Beach, but only managed to finish 15th after a number of drive-through penalties. Had a third place in Miami and then pole in Long Beach. It looked as though he was very much finally going to score some good points, but a retirement in Monaco as well as part of, well, as the catalyst really for that first corner carnage means that it's unlucky. Here's Lucas de Grassi. Oh, goodness me, he's gone, he's lost it.
Wow, yeah, just instantly started locking rears on the way in and just looped him around very, very quickly.
I think that's turn 6 where de Grassi lost it there. So the first spin of the day goes to the championship leader, Lucas de Grassi. Halfway through this first free practice session now. There are the Abt team also in their home race as well. So they will be very much looking for a strong result this weekend. De Grassi looking to... He's leading the championship, but astonishingly he hasn't won since the first race of the season in Beijing, all the way back in September. Vergne's just improved, but he remains second quickest in the Andretti car at 24.870, so he's 0.139 down on Nick Heidfeld at the moment. Time's not the most important thing, though, in free practice. It's all about learning how much energy you use during a lap, and therefore what your strategy is going to be going forward.
Yeah, exactly. You know, on top of learning the circuit and the limits of the car, yeah, you're obviously learning your energy usage as well through the lap and how that's going to play out for you in the race. So lots to learn out there. And but Jean-Eric Vergne looks like consistently he can punch in the times here. He's setting some good sector times, and you know, second quickest, very, very close to Nick Heidfeld. I'm not sure if Nick used any extra power than anyone else for that single lap, but I'm sure we're going to see the time just keep improving here. And yeah, Lucas again, rear sliding around a lot there, so he's really fighting it at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think Heidfeld would have used his full 200. They get the opportunity during the free practice sessions to use the full 200 kilowatts of power. And in Monaco, we only saw the two e.dams guys use that in free practice. As de Grassi turns into the first corner, and Heidfeld is only a tenth and a half up on the rest of the field, really. So I don't think he will have used his full power. As we see Bruno Senna, a man who has yet to finish on the podium. No podiums so far this season for Mahindra. A best of 5th position. Senna's had 2 5th places. Chanduk's had 1. But they'll be very keen to get back towards the front of the field, Mahindra. Well, they're always there or thereabouts, but it just doesn't quite come together for them during the races. He comes through turn 5. He's 0.4 of a second down on Nick Heidfeld after the first sector, so not running at a particularly high power level at the moment. Swinging it out into turn number 9. And we've got the red flag out on circuit again, with 20 minutes left on the clock. As Bruno Senna makes his way down into the left-hander of turn 10. The crowd are going to get a great view of that in the grandstand there. I was amazed how many people were here when we rocked up at 7:30 this morning. It was quite impressive to see the fans already making their way into the circuit, and you can see them all out there on the circuit as they pull back into the pits. We've got a problem with the timing loop again. So that's why the red flag has come out, so we'll sort that out and get back going again. But yeah, great to see so many fans at this time in the morning. I wouldn't be out of bed, but have to be. But these guys have come out to see racing in Berlin, which is pretty rare, really. And it is the only... it's the biggest single-seater race in Germany this year, with the lack of German Grand Prix after Hockenheim was cancelled. Sorry, Nürburgring it was meant to be, wasn't it? It was cancelled. So this is all they got, and it's right in their city centre. We are just maybe 15 minutes from the centre of Berlin, as Daniel Abt, the man from Kempen, makes his way back into the pit lane, and he's looking for a strong weekend, Daniel Abt, as it is his home race.
And just to point out, you can see they were putting dry ice into the side pods of Lucas de Grassi's car. That's a normal thing. They put the dry ice in there, and then they blow cool air over it, to which then blows the cool air over to the radiators, which in turn cools the battery and the motors. So they use a special fluid in the radiators, which is non-conducting special electric fluid. So and it keeps everything cool, and it's optimum to keep the ultimate power and the ultimate usage of the battery. They have to keep it at a certain temperature, so that's why you can see there straight away as well with Daniel's car. As soon as he stops, they're cooling it off.
A lot of thinking going along by the looks of it for Daniel Abt in the cockpit, and as I say, the man from Kempen, which is West Germany, really, sort of Dusseldorf, Dortmund area, almost on the border with the Netherlands. And here in Berlin we're much further to the east, not too far from Poland, but nevertheless it's still the German race for Daniel Abt. And so we have the red flag out here in free practice 1, and we can now hear from Rob Arnott, the man who is in charge, the team manager at the Andretti team.
Quite not a lot of grip out there on the track at the moment. That's normal, but so far everything's going okay. No great dramas at the moment.
Unlike the race in Monaco, we're not going to hope for that, are we, again?
Well, it's never very good on the first lap when your car comes back and it's only got 3 wheels on it. It's not going to be a good weekend.
But Jeff did pretty well to get the fastest lap.
He did a really nice job. It's one of those things. It was a bad weekend. Everything that we did went wrong. Happens every now and again, but I hope it's not going to be like that this weekend.
Absolutely, me too. Well, good luck. Thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
Good to hear from Rob there, a man with plenty of racing experience. There is Nelson Piquet Jr. sat at the wheel of his car, and he's interesting. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to phrase that, but he's incredibly competitive, Piquet. Him, D'Ambrosio and Scott Speed were racing around on these little electric hoverboard things, just as a bit of a PR stunt on Thursday, and it turned into a race, and Piquet lost the race and just sort of left. He was fed up because he lost the race on these little electric hoverboards, and Scott Speed certainly reminded him that that had been the case and that he had lost. So a very competitive driver, Nelson Piquet Jr., as we saw throughout the season, but also coming to a bit of a head in Monaco with his with his compatriot Lucas de Grassi, the two men challenging at the top of the championship. De Grassi at the top on 93 points. Nelson Piquet Jr. has 89 points. Sebastian Buemi 83, Prost 77, and Sam Bird at 64. They're the 5 really that are in championship contention. Bird, a bit of a dark horse really, but certainly the top 4 are there or thereabouts, as Scott Speed has a chat to Andy Miller, a very experienced race engineer, Andy Miller. Just trying to pick out what they're saying, but can't quite make it out. 15 minutes to go. We're under red flag conditions at the moment here at the first free practice session in Berlin, but the track certainly looks very wide and entertaining. We've already seen Lucas de Grassi have a spin down at turn number 6. And there is Sam Bird plugged in. He's getting more and more Union flags all over him. He's got them on his boots. He's now got them on his little tear-off winglets.
Maybe a tattoo next, yeah.
Yeah. So
he's proud to be British.
Absolutely, no, I'm not knocking
thing,
it. I'm not knocking it. It's just interesting to see them pop up more and more over the course of the season, and he will no doubt be looking forward to the London race, and which will be taking place on the 27th and 28th of June, a double header in London. Basically one race day on the Saturday, one race day on the Sunday, both independent of one another. So it'll be a sort of fresh restart for the Sunday action, which will most likely be the championship decider, because it's going to be very difficult to split them before we get to London. Next up is Moscow on the 6th of June, a race around, well, not exactly around the Kremlin, but pretty much outside the door of the Kremlin. It's going to look absolutely phenomenal. And then we go to London after that. So a really spectacular way to end the season after a spectacular start as well in Beijing, down through South America and then the United States. And now we're in that man's home race, Daniel Abt, who's very keen to go well this weekend. He's been so unlucky this season at various points as well. A couple of car troubles here and there that haven't afflicted his teammate Lucas de Grassi. But at the start of the season, Abt was very aware that he was going to be the second driver in that team and try and learn off de Grassi. We can now hear from Peter McCool, the boss of Amlin Aguri.
So, Peter McCool, what happened with Salvador's car yesterday when he went out? He didn't quite get out on track during the shakedown.
He got out and then he stopped. But that's exactly the reason we have a shakedown test. We had a simple sensor issue, and with these cars you have any issues, the sensors pick up anything they're not happy with, and the cars just shut down into safety mode. So we just had a simple sensor issue, the car shut down, we pulled him back, he went out very easily. So it was exactly the reason we have those shakedowns on the Friday prior to today. And then today's going really well, it's smooth for us. The reason we're stopped is not related to us. We're all on schedule. It's all going very well for us.
Absolutely. And how's Antonio Felix da Costa doing? I know he's keen to get another win under his belt, having chatted to him earlier today.
We're all keen he gets another win under his belt. He's doing really well. So this morning we're running through our data and our engineering plans, and we're sticking to that. We're going to have a good day today. It's all looking promising. Everything is going. It's going really smoothly for us at the moment.
Do you think it's realistic to see him on the podium?
We'll wait and see our times after P2, but yes, we've got plenty of speed in the car, we've got a very good driver, so I see absolutely no reason why we won't be up there.
And what about Salvador?
Salvador's doing very well. Salvador's doing exactly what we're asking him to do. He's coming along. Every session he gets in the car, he gets better, he gets quicker, he learns more about the car, so he's coming along nicely for us.
Because he's not really doing that well at the moment.
You might say that. I couldn't possibly. He's doing exactly what we're asking him to do from a team perspective, and I'm happy with that. We're very happy with Salvador. Very happy indeed.
All right, thanks very much.
And there is Salvador at the wheel of the Amlin Aguri car, the Mexican racer who's still adapting after having a big old break out of single-seaters. Very quick in Formula Renault 3.5, also in A1GP when he raced there too, but then had a good 3 or 4 years out of the cockpit before getting a reasonably last-minute call to come and race for Amlin Aguri in, I think it was Punta del Este, his first race of the season. Yes, the race 3 of the year. And there is Nico. So strange in the visor, isn't it? It just looks just like his father as he gets ready to head out onto the circuit when the red flag goes in, which hopefully shouldn't be too much longer. But he is the man who is 4th in the championship. He took the first 2 pole positions of the year, Nico Prost, and should have won the first race in Beijing were it not for the collision at the end of the race with Nick Heidfeld. Then a 4th place in Putrajaya, 7th in Punta del Este, and then finally in Buenos Aires he got on the podium, 2nd in Buenos Aires, 1st in Miami, and then it looked like he'd got it all together again, and then a 14th in Long Beach and a 6th in Monaco. The session will restart at 8:50 local time, which is in 20 seconds time. So in 20 seconds we'll have the final 10 minutes of free practice 1 to bring you ahead of the 8th round of the FIA Formula E Championship here in Berlin at the Tempelhof Airport. You can see there on the left hand side, and the cars will be no doubt desperate to get back out onto the circuit. Those guys in the pit lane might want to watch out, because I think we're about to have a lot of rushing down towards the pit exit. Green flag. Oh, told you, goodness me. Nelson nearly took one out. So it's De Grassi who's the first man out onto the circuit then, followed by Nelson Piquet Jr., Sam Bird, and then Daniel Abt. It's very close from pit exit to turn 1, isn't it? They hardly seem to be out of the pit exit by the time they're getting on the brakes of the first corner, which will be interesting during the race.
Yeah, I think it's going to make it good for the race because you've instantly got that inside line into turn 1. So yeah, as soon as you come up the pitch, you can, if you're fighting that closely for position, you can defend your line or possibly pass someone. So it's yeah, it's quite a good pit exit there.
Down through turn 5 across the sector 2, the beginning of sector 2, as Sam Bird, the Englishman from Roehampton, turns his way through that left-hander, running very close towards the little plastic flaps on the exit of the corner. And again, he seems to be a little bit, I mean, I know they're only on their outlap now, but it looks as though they're going at a reasonable pace. And Bird seems a lot smoother than some of the other guys. The other guys seem to be using the rear of the car as a pendulum. Whether that's intentional or not, I'm not sure, but Bird seems to like a bit more of a stable car.
Yeah, I think as well on the outlap, trying to obviously warm up the tyres as best he can, but not overdo it, so that his first time lap here, he can get the best out of the tyres and not be losing the edge towards the end of the lap. So yeah, very smooth driver, Sam, and yeah, I think we're going to see the tumbles time a bit more. Times tumble, tongue twister towards the end of this session here.
So 8 minutes to go here in free practice 1. Sam Bird turns into the first corner. We've got pretty much everyone out there on the circuit except for, by the looks of it, Sebastian Buemi. He appears to still be in the pit lane in his e.dams machine. So all the other 19 drivers are out there on the track, and we'll keep an eye out to see who goes well in the first sector as they come out now through the right-hand kink of turn 5, and that is when we will get our first sector splits. Bird on the brakes into the left-hander, a 29.7 in the first sector, so nothing astonishing. Daniel Abt is the quickest man in the first sector so far. Goodness me, that exit is really something, isn't it, as they come out of turn 7. And now Bird makes his way under the camera position and down into turn number 10. Fastest personal best in sector 1 for Antonio Felix da Costa in the Amlin car that we were just talking to Peter McCool about. The Portuguese racer going well. Charles Pique's done his personal best in the middle sector. Currently down in 12th position at the moment, Charles Pique. And Nelson Piquet is 8th at the moment, 0.6 of a second down on the quickest lap time we've seen so far from Nick Heidfeld. Through the final corner comes Sam Bird then. And I don't know if we're going to see many improvements this time through.
13.4, 13.3.
And that's Bird updating the team as to his energy usage. Every lap pretty much as they come across the start-finish line, they update the team on their energy usage.
Yeah, and I think that lap there, Nelson and Sam, it looked like they were maybe trying some lift and coast in a few places just to see what lap times they can achieve with the energy they need to use during the race to conserve it. So interesting, they're doing that straight away, trying to learn, and then maybe right at the end of the session they'll try and punch in a quick one. But it's good to see the differences.
Buemi has made his way out onto the circuit now, so we have got all of the drivers out on the perfect as they come down into the left-hander. This is Stefan Sarazan, who always seems to be a bit higher up in the cockpit than everyone else, really.
Yeah, he does actually. Yeah, it's a good. You can even see the bottom of his helmet actually from where he's sitting. But yeah, interesting. Steph normally sits pretty low in the sports cars, but
Karun's had a moment. I heard the squealing going on, and I think that's at turn 8 and 9, and then he's come back in right in front of Antonio Felix da Costa, so that was almost a moment there, but Karun having a little moment. But back to Sarazan, and yeah, so he doesn't sit really high in the Toyota.
No, so yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he can't see enough with this car, and he's just comfortable sitting that way. Other drivers, Sam Bird, I think, sits really low in the car, so yeah, some drivers just more comfortable with seeing a bit less than others, I suppose.
Sarazan across the line, that's his team radio. 1.6 seconds down that lap on the quickest time we've seen, which was his teammate, Nick Heidfeld. Out of turn 1 into the... it's turn 3, really, that it's officially named. Now here's a look at Karun, and he's already gone.
Yeah. straight away into turn 8 there, just under braking, has lost the rear end. And yeah, you know, shows they're pushing it. And you know, this is the point as well where they're trying to maximize the ultimate braking into every corner. And yeah, you can see it's caught out Lucas and Karun this session, really looping it around very quickly.
Nick Heidfeld has just done the fastest first sector of anyone in the session so far. So 29.0 for Nick Heidfeld in sector 1. He's still the quickest man of anyone, but he's going even quicker at the moment, although Jaime Alguersuari in the Virgin car has just matched him in the first sector as well. 4.5 minutes to go in free practice 1. And it looks to me as though they're still running it. It's a poor middle sector actually for Nick Heidfeld at 22.2 as D'Ambrosio runs very, very wide coming out there. Jay Penske, the man in the glasses with the swept back hair, is the man in charge of the Dragon Racing team. Lucas de Grassi has just gone 11th quickest. Sarazan and Liuzzi have come into the pits. And this is Nick Heidfeld coming through the final corner. His first sector was good, his middle sector wasn't that great. Jaime Alguersuari, these two are both going to do very similar times across the line. And Heidfeld suddenly backed off, but Alguersuari goes second quickest at 24.782 for the Spaniard. Half a tenth of a second slower than Nick Heidfeld, who really seemed to
back off in the last sector.
Yeah, he massively backed off, didn't he, towards the end?
Other than that, they were a match, really, sector 1 and 2. So, yeah, interesting.
So you can see the order there on the left-hand side with 3 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Here's Lucas de Grassi out on circuit. 29.2 in sector 1, which is 2/10 down on the quickest we've seen so far.
10th off in sector 2 as well.
So he's at turn 10. Now onto the brakes for turn 12, which is a really tight right-hander. Something just flying off there. Looked like a bit of rubber.
That's bits of rubber, yeah. I mean, we can see offline in some corners on the exit of turn 1. There's lots of rubber actually offline, so it's quite an abrasive surface, it looks like, really chewing up the tyres.
So across the line comes Lucas de Grassi, which is just there, those two strips, and he remains in 11th position, doesn't improve on that lap. Oh, but he's sliding it around on the exit of turn 1, so I think he might be pushing because he didn't come over the radio as he came across the line there. We had his radio open, but he didn't say anything, so he might be trying to push it again. Sebastian Buemi is going super fast. I think he's using his full 200 kilowatts of power because he's just gone 0.6 of a second quicker than anyone in the first sector. So Sebastian Buemi is flying. That's his teammate Nico Prost, who at the moment has done a pretty slow first and second sectors. So we're not going to have an improvement at the moment from Nico Prost. There's Jerome D'Ambrosio coming through. Buemi's gone quickest of anyone in the second sector as well. So there is the Swiss driver now on a flyer. Quickest lap time we've seen so far is a 24.731. A lock-up from the Andretti car in front of him. I think that's Jean-Eric Verne, and that could spoil Buemi's lap as they come through the final few sequence of corners. Now through 16 into 17, and Buemi is going to go quickest of anyone. How much quicker, though, than anyone? That'll be the question. 24.7, the best lap time we've seen so far. Buemi comes across the line to do a 23.1, 1.5 seconds quicker than Nick Heidfeld. And so I think that would have been on the full 200.
Je crois qu'il était aussi en map 6, je crois.
And I think he might have been complaining about Verne.
Yeah, I think he just got held up a little bit there in that last little sector, so we could have seen him maybe drop into the 22s, but good effort there from Seb. Purples in every sector, so looks like he's using the maximum power, and that may be the reason he waited that little bit longer before he left pit lane to just conserve some energy, so he's got, you know, the full punch at the end of the session.
Yeah, they did that. The e.dams team were the only guys to do that last time out in Monaco as well. So will they do that with Nico Prost too? He's going to be coming over the line in a moment to start what will be his final lap of the session. So we may see him turn it up. Jaime Alguersuari getting out of the way of the charging Charles Pic, who's got Daniel Abt right up behind him. Pic coming through that kink. And then again, the back is stepping out. There is an awful lot offline, isn't there? There's,
everywhere. There's marbles. You can see the little black bits of rubber that just comes from the rubber rolling off the edge of the tyre and just, you know, flicking away where they're getting, you know, worked quite hard around here. I think it's with the long radius corners, they're really being worked that little bit harder than the stop-start type corners that we've seen before on street tracks.
So the checkered flag is out here at Berlin. We've still got a couple of guys out there on laps. Still waiting to see Nico Prost's first sector time. He's still completing it at the moment. It's a 29.5, so he's not using the full 200, or if he is, then he's had a shocker as Piquet comes across the line.
16.8.
And that's his team radio reporting back to the pits. As the checker flag is out then. No one really on a super quick lap. Da Costa's done the fastest middle sector that he's managed so far. There is Nico Prost just cruising round, relatively speaking. Coming up towards turn 12. He can complete this lap that he's on at the moment. Da Costa takes the checkered flag and improves by 1,000th of a second. So he's now 6,000ths of a second slower than Charles Pic in 15th position. Bruno Senna down in 18th place, so that, well, 18th and 20th for the two Mahindra guys, but it's not about lap times this first session. It's about getting your energy readings and knowing exactly what position you're going to be in for the race coming up later on today. 4 p.m. start time in Berlin for the race. Qualifying starts at noon. Across the line come the rest of the guys. Personal best in the final sector from Loic Duval in the Dragon car. He's 8th quickest, D'Ambrosio 5th, so Dragon look like they're there or thereabouts as we go on board with the 55 car of Antonio Felix da Costa in the Amlin, and he has taken the checker flag. Everyone has taken the checker flag now, so that's the end of the first free practice session. And what have we learnt, Mike?
I think we've learned, you know, from all the rubber we've seen offline, it's, you know, very hard on the tyres here, so that's going to play a role as well into the weekend with the limited amount of tyres they get. And, you know, and it doesn't look easy to drive. You've seen a couple of drivers now spin off, and, yeah, it just looks like quite a tricky little track, but I think it's going to be look very good for racing.
So a few practice starts going on. De Grassi heads off. Next up, it'll be Sebastian Buemi. When the lights go out, away they go, going down towards the first corner. Looks as though Buemi got a slightly slower start there than whoever he was alongside that we were on board with. There's Daniel Abt. Got Heidfeld behind and Jarno Trulli behind him. It's a very short run down towards turn 1. It's only 200 meters. They're not really... They don't really get up to much speed by the time they get there. If you look, let's watch now as Trulli heads off.
Yeah, it would have been good to have seen the lighter as well to see his reaction times. But
so he goes off and then he's on the brakes about now already.
Yeah.
So it's a very short run.
You can see his bodywork on the rear there is flapping around. Whether he's touched a wall maybe or something. It's definitely possible around here, although it is a little bit harder to hit the walls. They're a bit further away.
Yeah, but there are some on the exits that they're running right up to, especially coming out of turn 7. And this is Loic Duval coming around to do his practice start. Oh, so this would be cool if we get it with the onboard telemetry. And so he's going to line up on the outside. So this is going to be about 7th place on the grid. Is he going to go this time? Probably not. Oh, he is. He's gone for it.
Hey, that was it.
Boots it away.
Yeah, no wheel spin at all there. Just good traction and yeah, didn't look too hard. Easy as that.
Duval getting a good start there and getting past Tony Oliuzzi on the rundown as well. So looking forward to the start later on. It's going to be very, very wide. There's an awful lot of opportunity to try and go somewhere else as opposed to Monaco, which was pretty much single file. And if you don't go single file, we saw what happened as Tony Oliuzzi, the Italian, who I don't think has picked up any points so far this season. No, his best race was a 13th in Long Beach, despite having good pace when he arrived in Miami. It didn't quite work out for him as the weekend progressed. Nick Heidfeld then, 2nd quickest at his home circuit, and I mean, I suppose in theory quickest of anyone, because he was the quickest of them, apart from that man, Sebastian Buemi, who appeared to use the full 200 kilowatts of power for his qualifying sim. So Heidfeld really the quickest, I suppose, but it's Buemi who tops the timesheets. And I think he was frustrated to have been held up by Jean-Eric Verne at the end of that lap. And he seems prepared because I think Nicky's lurking around him. So we can hear now from the Swiss driver. Quickest man of anyone in free practice 1, Sebastian Buemi's with Nicky.
So, Sebastian Buemi, fastest out on track at the moment. First impressions?
It's quite different to what I was expecting. It seems like the tyre wear will be a big issue. We tend to see a lot of marbles, so it tends to be a bit of a difficult track for the tyres, so we'll have to look into details what we can do to improve that.
And obviously, without being able to change the tyres in this race, do you think the cars are going to be able to last the distance?
It's going to be difficult, I think, this one. Clearly, in other races, we never had a problem with the tyres, but I think here, for the first time, we might see some big degradation on the tyres.
And you had a superb race, obviously, in Monaco. How important is pole for this race today?
I think it's always important. Obviously, on this track, I think if you are quicker, you're going to end up overtaking. So it's maybe not as important as Monaco, but still a good position on the grid will help. Huh?
Good luck, thank you.
Good to hear from Sebastian Buemi. So, yeah, really struggling with the tyres then here. And is that, well, there you can see the marbles. Is that just because it's not tarmac, it's sort of concrete? Does that make it more abrasive, perhaps?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've had concrete at other places as well, but I think just with the quicker corners, maybe the longer radius corners, it's really just working the tyres harder, and yeah, it's making it quite hard on the tyres.